President Trump is receiving a lot of criticism for his zero-tolerance immigration policy that facilitates the separation of families at the border, so of course we all know what that means. The propaganda wing of the Republican Party, Fox News, is reliably coming to the rescue, like they always do.
This is one of those moments that tells you everything about our ruling class. They care far more about foreigners than about their own people. You probably suspected that already. The other thing you may have noticed is that they're not especially interested in solutions to anything. They're great at yelling and at preening, not so good at fixing and building. We could strengthen our borders to keep illegals out. We could fund more immigration courts to process those who sneak through anyway. We could even build more housing facilities at the border, holding facilities, to allow families to stay together while their asylum claims are processed. But the left is not interested in any of that. Their only solution is immediate amnesty for anyone who crosses our borders with a minor in tow. And of course, that's the same as no borders at all, not to mention a powerful incentive for child smuggling. They don't care. Because no matter what they tell you, this is not about helping children. A lot of people yelling at you on TV don't even have children, so don't for a second let them take the moral high ground.
So I take it that the irony was lost on Tucker there. He states, "This is one of those moments that tells you everything about our ruling class. They care far more about foreigners than our own people." Okay, first of all, when you're talking about the ruling class, don't pretend as if that doesn't also include you, Mr. My Net Worth is $16 million. You are the ruling class, and you're especially powerful at this given moment in time, since the party that you belong to controls every single branch of government. And I just love the implication here that Republicans only want to implement these fascistic anti-immigrant policies because, we can't spend money on these foreigners because we need to use that money to take care of our own people. So let me ask you this, Tucker. When did you and your Republican friends start suddenly caring about Americans? Because this is news to me. Up until this point, you guys haven't given a single fuck about Americans. Donald Trump, your president, just gutted the Affordable Care Act last year. Republicans proposed cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and SNAP, and they've been trying to privatize Social Security since before I was born. They're passing laws specifically designed to disenfranchise black voters. They chastise people for speaking out against police brutality, against people of color. They're destroying unions across the country. They're letting companies dump waste in rivers. I mean, in what reality do Republicans care at all, even a little bit about the American people?
They care far more about foreigners than about their own people.
You are stupid.
Now, Tucker also states here, a lot of people yelling at you on TV don't even have children, so don't for a second let them take the moral high ground. Yes, because if you don't have children, well, newsflash, you simply can't care about other people's children. Maybe we can empathize, Tucker, because we've been children ourselves before, and we know how traumatic that would be to be ripped away from our parents. Or maybe we just care about other people's children. But according to Tucker Carlson, if you don't have children, well, you can't say anything here. Brilliant logic there, Tucker. I guess you need to shut the fuck up now about abortion. I guess you need to shut the fuck up now about our social safety net since you're rich and welfare is something that doesn't apply to you. But Tucker isn't the only one defending Trump here, because Laura Ingraham, another stooge on Fox News, frankly, she decided to come out and defend him because, imprisoning children, according to her, isn't that big of a deal, because really, when you see these children in cages, it's pretty much like summer camp. She actually said this.
Well, consistent with American law, when a party is arrested, your children are either sent to relatives or they become wards of the state. So since more illegal immigrants are rushing the border, more kids are being separated from their parents and temporarily housed in what are essentially summer camps, or as the San Diego Union Tribune described them today, as looking like basically boarding schools.
It's just like summer camp when we lock children in cages and separate them from their parents. She actually said that with a straight face. She wasn't joking. She wasn't being facetious. She literally compared these detention facilities where they place children in cages to summer camp. Think about how dumb and dim-witted someone would have to be to make that comparison. And Laura, if you think that children being detained and separated from their parents is fun and like summer camp, well, we actually know that that is verifiably false, because it doesn't sound like this child in the audio clip I'm about to play for you is having much fun as she's being taken away from her mom.
Bueno, aquí tenemos una orquesta. Faltaba el maestro,
Ay, con mi tía por lo menos para que después llegue. Que me venga a traer mi tía para llevarme a la casa.
Ella llama a tu tía si tú tienes número y habla con tu tía.
Tengo el número de ella.
Pues ahorita ella te ayuda para que hable.
That little girl wasn't having fun as she was being taken away and taken into U.S. custody. That was human suffering that you heard. And if you think that that's not a big deal, then you are morally bankrupt, Laura. And at these facilities, children are oftentimes treated like prisoners, not like campers. In fact, a former youth care worker recently resigned because he refused to carry out a literal no-hugging policy that one of these detention centers had in place.
And then later on in the evening, it was not until 8 o'clock that the kids were assigned rooms. In Spanish and English, they were trying to explain to the kids that they would all then be separated. The brother, all three of the siblings in different rooms. So they responded to this by basically clinging to each other and crying. So then I was called on the radio, and I was told over the radio, Antar, come over here. You need to tell them that they cannot hug. They can't hug. So I said, I don't know that I'm going to do that, but I'm on my way. So I arrived to the scene, and the three siblings were clutching each other for dear life, tears streaming down their face. I approached the oldest brother, and I say to him in Portuguese, bro, you got to be strong. And he turns to me with tears streaming down his face, and he says, How can I be strong? Look at my brother, look at my sister. They're trying to separate us again. And I didn't know. I just put my head down. I didn't know what to respond to him.
Antar, how old are these children?
Yes.
How old are these children?
These kids. The oldest brother was 16. The sister was 10, and the younger brother was 8. So at that moment, the shift leader ran up to me and very aggressively told me, "Diles que no pueden abrazar." Tell them that they can't hug. Now, this is also in front of other children, other employees who are watching this. And so she screams at me to tell them not to hug, that they're not allowed to hug. That's the rule at Southwest Key. And meanwhile, I'm looking at these kids. It's the two little siblings just, thinking they're going to be ripped now from their brother's arms, and the brother crying because he can't do anything necessarily. And I told her at that point, when she told me to do that, I told her, I'm sorry, but as a human being, that's not something that I could do. You're welcome to do it yourself. To which she replied, first that she would report me to the supervisor, and then she went directly to them and said, no pueden abrazar, you're not allowed to hug. And he looks at me with tears streaming down his face in utter disbelief that would happen.
So, I mean, how can you listen to his story, which is completely believable, mind you? If we can place children in cages, we can treat them like animals too. But I mean, how could you hear his story and still think, oh, it's just like summer camp? You have to be delusional at this point to come to that conclusion. But this is awful. I mean, this is psychological stress that will likely traumatize these children for the rest of their lives. And there's a reason why the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics referred to Trump's policy of separating families at borders as child abuse, because it is. But maybe it's the case that Laura Ingraham hasn't seen videos of children crying as they're ripped away from their parents. However, even if one of Donald Trump's sycophantic reporters see that video and that footage, they still find a way to rationalize it. Case in point.
As long as you keep that magnet on, and what greater magnet than citizenship, than Medicare, Medicaid, free health care? Yeah, that's why people voted for Wall. And I would also say one other thing, these child actors weeping and crying on all the other networks 24/7 right now. Do not fall for it, Mr. President. I get very nervous about the president getting his news from TV because I also have an Adios America. A New
I don't know if I don't
article.
know if that's...
New Yorker is not a conservative publication. They describe.
So I told you we wouldn't get a word in. I told you.
These kids are being
I'm so
coached.
sorry. We have to go.
They're given scripts to read by liberals, according to the New Yorker. Don't fall for the actor children.
Okay. Thank you for getting that off your chest.
You're welcome.
So she just straight up went full Alex Jones there. Unbelievable. So I actually tried to look up the article that she was referencing there to see how she disingenuously misinterpreted it. And it turns out that she was actually referencing an article written in 2011 about how parents of immigrant children try to coach them into saying the right things that would help them qualify for asylum. And as the author of this article actually tweeted out in response to Ann Coulter butchering his article, quote, "If you had 3 functioning brain cells, Ann Coulter, you wouldn't be mentioning my New Yorker article about asylum to support your racist positions. It's not about child actors, it's about narratives demanded of adults by a broken asylum system." So, I mean, these are not reasonable people. These are people who are deliberately trying to misinform you about this situation because they have an agenda. They have a fascistic, xenophobic agenda. These are Republican Party propagandists that dupe working people into believing that these immigrants are responsible for all of their economic woes. It's not the system itself. It's not predatory, unfettered capitalism or money in politics that corrupted an already exploitative system. It's these powerless, undocumented immigrants that are causing all of their problems. They're scapegoating the people with the least amount of power in our society and trying to claim that they caused all the problems. In reality, these are people who are escaping violence. Violence in large part, mind you, that was catalyzed by our policies, by our failed war on drugs. To blame them for fleeing the fucked up situation that we in part created is despicable. So we should allow them to seek asylum, and certainly we need a pathway to citizenship for people who do want to get in the country. It's only right. You create a problem, you fix it by doing what's right. But these people, again, they see that the system in America is broken, and they don't know how to respond to that. So they do what's easy. They just blame immigrants. Well, that is not going to fix our problems. You can deport every single undocumented immigrant out of this country, and the problems in this country will still persist. It's because it's not immigrants, it's the system itself. And if you cared about changing the system, then you would be arguing in favor of reform, not xenophobic anti-immigration policies. Ann Coulter, Tucker Carlson, and Laura Ingraham. These people are absolute jokes.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.